Fight!
Round 7. Kicks, but
Not good.
Shut, Wado. Mi boska da Shmi Skywalker.
Lanny? Hey, Lanny? Hey, you sure sprouted, huh? Will you?
My mother.
Oh, yeah. I sold her
You sold her.
years ago. Sorry, Annie, but you know, business is business. Believe it or not, I heard you feed her and married her. Tell me a bit of that, eh? Yeah.
Dad, I think we're being tracked.
He must have put a homing device on our hull. Hang on, son, we'll move into the asteroid field.
Seismic charges.
Watch out! Fire!
Blast! This is why I hate flying.
Well, we won't be seeing him again.
Okay. I just think it's convenient that they found out they was tracking him when they got to the planet already. I thought that was pretty convenient. But
I mean, how else would they find out?
because he was following them the whole time.
Yeah, but at that point, he made himself more obvious because they were closer to the destination. But I can see your point, I guess.
To provide clarity on your discrepancy, when you're going through light speed, it's not like he followed him from Camino through space to Geonosis. He left Camino, goes into light speed, and then gets to Geonosis. Yeah, remember there's like multiple vessels in like the hyperspace.
Mm-hmm.
So he gets the notification that he's being tracked as soon as he comes out of hyperspace, like detaches. But I do agree with you though. One thing I do not like about this scene is the sense of time, because I remember when Obi-Wan first landed on Camino, I felt like he was taken to another city, like on that little, it was like some animal thing, like it looked like they came out of the water and went to another city. It could have just been, scenery, but they're already gone, and Jengo's particular ship is like one of the best in the galaxy. It's the only one of its model. So I don't like how it just so happens to flow together to where Obi-Wan is coming out of hyperspace just moments after Jengo. Excuse me. Because that little docking station is required for a Republic starfighter to even get into hyperspace. So that means he has to throw the tracking device on their ship, go all the way back to his ship, fire it up, get it reconnected to the dock, and then go to hyperspace. Whereas Jango's ship can go onto hyperspace immediately. So I just think like for the sake of time, like Jengo should have already been on the floor of Geonosis by the time Obi-Wan even came out of hyperspace, or been there for a significant amount of time. But I do enjoy the fight scene though. One thing I didn't mention
the
is
fight
that,
scene. Yeah, I do like the fight scene.
that Jengo is one of the few people that have actually beat or killed Jedi in combat, which is how Dooku knows of Jango Fett. And essentially how Dooku knows of Jango Fett is when Jango was a Mandalorian, or I don't know, he's technically still a Mandalorian, but when he was in the Mandalorian, the system of Mandalore, there was this battle of Galadrin to where a governor in the system put out a false, I guess you could say, like APB to the Republic, letting them know that the true Mandalorians were killing like women and children. And so the Jedi came, but this was like a ploy by Death Watch, which is another faction of Mandalorians, to kill the true Mandalorians. And so Dooku led this battle where they were battling the true Mandalorians, and he witnessed Jango kill multiple Jedi. And so what happened is once Jango surrendered, Dooku turned him over to the governor, and it's reported that, well, I'm not gonna say reported. Part of the story is that Jango went into slavery, and then more or less escaped, got his stuff back, and that's when the whole like Dooku turning into Tyrannus or turning to the dark side happened, and he's
and that's why he used them as the template for the clones.
Yeah.
Because even without his sensitivity, like he had no force sensitivity, but he was still able to kill the Jedi.
It's just really the irony of the scene on Tatooine is that he finds out that his mom was actually a free woman. Mm-hmm. That he, technically speaking, had he not gone to had he ever left the Order, he could have returned to Tatooine, and she would have been a free woman to where he could have lived with her again.
You said if he never what?
If he would have ever left the Order, if he would have. Because he's in the Order so long. I mean, granted, it's part of his, destiny. But he's in the Order so long because if you remember at the end of episode 1, or not even the end, when they leave Tatooine, it's determined that she wouldn't be free.
Yeah.
And so he goes to, Coruscant to be trained to like more or less fulfill that destiny that, Mom says I could be a Jedi, I'll go be a Jedi, I've seen myself be a Jedi. And he goes, but it's like, there's always that void of, leaving your mom behind. And of course that void is filled as we see with Padme.
Interesting. I thought he was going to say he'll have like, I guess you say regret that he went and joined the Jedi when he could have stayed and possibly been free just like her and just stayed with her too. That's what I think.
I mean, that's another perspective as well.
I don't think it would have been as interesting, but
No, and it would have. I wonder at what point did he lose? At what point did he get to the point to where he had to sell Shmi? Because he looks way worse. Like his situation is a lot worse than what it was.
Do they ever explain that?
No.
he's not that significant.
I thought you explained it in a book or something.
We said that's the thing about Star Wars that we were talking about before we started recording it. It's like each of these characters is so layered and complex that there's points of curiosity you can divulge into, delve into, and develop a world around that.
Yeah, it's because you're dealing with different species in the universe too. Like you have,
but they're interconnected as well too.
Yeah, but you have you have definitely layers to put it down, like where they're from, their whole origin story, like their people. Like you have different ways to use it because you're dealing with a whole universe and different species, not just human beings, like with most movies. So
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely understand. Like, you could do Boba Fett, you could do Han Solo. There's different characters you can go out and do it. But
And
I
nobody
just-
wants. His name was Water, wasn't it?
Jango Fett is my favorite character in the Star Wars universe. Boba Fett, with us seeing him this early, to where it's like with Jango being this early, you have to go back to the comics. Disney did a disservice with the book of Boba Fett because they literally could have chosen any point in his life to center it around. Like, we get a bit of Boba Fett in, the Clone Wars animated series, but there's a period of Boba Fett when, the Empire is relevant that could have been delved into, whereas we get him escaping the Sarlacc pit and becoming a member of the Tusken Raiders and things of that nature. So he has one of the greatest stories that never came to fruition, that Disney really fluffed up on.
What came, because The Mandalorian was about Boba Fett too, right?
Mandalorian is about a Mandalorian. He is in The Mandalorian, but his timeline, kind of like what Brian mentioned, where you're getting, you're getting Padme and Anakin on Naboo, and we're getting Jango and Obi-Wan on Kamino. Boba Fett's timeline is going at the same time of The Mandalorian, to where he's escaped the Sarlacc pit. He's been integrated into the Tusken Raiders at the same time that, Mando is going through all his stuff on Tatooine with Cobb Vanth, and we won't spoil it, but they've taken a little bit, like as you mentioned when we weren't on camera yet, that episode 4, 5, and 6 is just like 1, 2, and 3. Or I'm sorry, no,
7, 8, 9.
7, 8, 9. 7, 8, 9 is literally just 4, 5, and 6. So they've definitely taken a lot of things and just learned how to interweave them together.
Fight!
Round 8.
We must persuade the Commerce Guild and the Corporate Alliance to...
I am not signing your treaty until I have a head on my desk.
I am a man of my word, Viceroy. As I explained to you earlier, I am quite convinced that 10,000 more systems will rally to our cause with your support, gentlemen. Our friends from the Trade Federation have pledged their support. The Jedi will be overwhelmed. The Republic will agree to any demands we make.
I'm here, Mom. You're safe.
Annie? My son. Oh, my grown-up son. Now I am complete. I'll help.
Stay with me, Mom.
Anakin! Anakin!
Something terrible has happened. Young Skywalker is in pain.
So, in light of that, the scene with Anakin's revenge, I want to take a step back to one of the earlier scenes we saw. So, you remember when he was first having his tantrum and he was going into the descent of madness when he was speaking with Padme? If you notice very closely, the musical score switched to Darth Vader's iconic music. You picked that up?
Yeah.
Okay. That was something I noticed earlier. But I do like this scene in particular because it shows that what he's capable of when he completely disregards what he's taught. It shows what he's, it shows his other side. Like, that he's a Jedi, but it shows that he's not the same as the other ones.
Mm-hmm.
He's willing to disobey the order, and when he does that, it's his own personal interest. He acts on his own emotions. He has his own agenda, which is directly against the order.
Of course, I think it definitely helps that he was influenced by his mom dying right in front of him, and I think he feels some type of guilt aside from the other emotions he's feeling.
Oh yeah,
as a teenager. But yeah, I definitely agree. I like this. I like that he gets closer to the dark side, and you hear the Darth Vader. You know, he's almost there. He's crossing over. So I do like that. Well, one thing I don't like, you mentioned Padme, right?
Mm-hmm.
It seems like Padme never sees the red flags that's in Anakin and is just like, oh yeah, let's do it. It just seems
I
like
agree with you. After this, so because he tells her,
It's all Obi-Wan's fault. He's jealous. He's holding me back. I killed them.
yeah, that's the scene I'm talking about.
They're like animals, and I slaughtered them like animals. I hate them.
He killed everybody because of his mom, and she's like, "Oh, Annie, you're good. Yeah, you're good. Let's have sex." You know, so it just seems like she never stops him at all. So that's really my big thing. I do like this scene though, as far as Anakin getting closer to the dark side. One other thing that I had a problem with is just a little bit earlier when Obi-Wan just randomly stumbles upon Count Dooku's plan that he's talking to everybody about, and he figures out what's happening. And if you say the Force, I swear to God. Okay.
No, so what I will say is
because Jango Fett wasn't even in that group.
He's not, and it is very ironic that he just stumbles upon him. But then again, remember that Jengo is Count Dooku's bodyguard as well.
Mm-hmm.
So even though he's not presently there, he's in the vicinity.
in proximity.
Yeah. But I don't know if I want to keep diving into the EU, the expanded universe, because as we watch this back, I do think that Padme was chosen with the intent of maybe not having the experience to deal with Anakin's emotions, because I forgot who was the king. It was either King Varun or King Ventavalo of Naboo that Palpatine was looking to replace with Padme. So Palpatine actually helped get Padme into to become queen, and so he's had a very key role in a lot of things planning out as they have. Like Anakin, I don't think he planned out Anakin stumbling upon. No, you can say without a doubt, he didn't plan out Qui-Gon and Padme stumbling upon Anakin, but it's something that I think he maybe by the will of the Force has pieced itself together for or in his favor.
I think it was Varun, and the reason the one you were were going back and forth about. The reason I say that is because that's the one that I know that he had a tumultuous reign, and because of him, that's why they instated the two-term limit as the ruler that Padme had to abide by when she was queen. So I think he might be the one you're talking about.
Yeah, he is. Another thing I like about this scene too, though, is you get to see Immune, because it's said that Darth Plagueis is Immune, Palpatine's master, but the Immune is the one with the long head, has human-esque features, but he has that pale skin. So it's cool to see that. But I think everyone here is the
the banker.
Yep.
Damn, them things are ugly.
Yeah. It's cool seeing everyone here though, because there's the Munes they run the IBC, their international banking clan, and then you have the Techno Union, you have the Trade Federation. It's cool to see what has been assimilating, because this is essentially what Plagueis was doing. So you kind of see things are still in motion from what Plagueis was doing. Palpatine didn't let any.
It seems like Palpatine's plan is just hope. It seems like it's hope that it was kind of hope that they would get close. Anakin and Padme would get close, and then it's hope that they actually fall for each other too. Because it's not like unless you're telling me he influenced, and then he hoped that
you can do that through the Force. You can influence people. Jedi aren't supposed to do it for their own selfish reasons.
And Sith can too, right?
No, Sith can do whatever the hell they want.
Yeah, Siths are very.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying.
They're unbound.
See that? Okay, yeah, that's what. So maybe he influenced her or something like that, or maybe they influenced the actual relationship. But it seems like it's more.
Maybe she had the characteristics to where their dichotomy would influence a result in his favor,
and he took advantage of it. What I was saying about the Sinister Six, while there was like all the consortium of evil, all of them were sitting around the table. Newt Gunray made an appearance, and it just shows you the kind of power that the Trade Federation and these evil doers, for lack of better terms, the kind of power they actually have. Because he, at the end of the last movie, he was supposed to be getting reprimanded because of his role in those events, and now you just see him free. Well, it is 10 years, but you would think that the scale of what he was doing, you would think he would be imprisoned for longer than 10 years, but it looks like he's pretty much untouchable.
Who's controlling the prisons? Like, how does the prisons work in this?
That I don't know.
Yeah, because that's the next question. Like, is it like in this with the Jedi's? Like, or is it something that's other?
But you can see that there is a lot of corruption. Even later on, when they talk about Dooku, he found out how corrupt the Senate was, and he even how the Jedi were kind of tied into it because they were kind of complicit in a sense. Mm-hmm. And so that was his take. Because even one of the neat things about just most narratives as they're written as a whole, everyone, or real life actually, everyone thinks that they're doing the right thing. They think they're doing good or justice in their own mind. And Dooku, this is his warped version of that. So he was presented with the facts of, what really goes on behind the Senate, what really goes on behind the Jedi Council, and this is what he decides to do. He thinks he's doing the right thing.
And I think the irony of this scene is that, a few scenes ago we saw Mace, mention that their ability to use the Force has diminished and that, they've struggled to see things come to fruition. But the voice we hear is Qui-Gon.
Yeah.
And then you just so happen you're able to sense this as it's happening. It just goes to show that, I think the power of the Sith, to the Jedi's defense, Sith have been extinct for 1,000 years. They haven't really had the need to know what the true power of the Sith can be. But it just goes to show that the potential for manipulation, if that is what it is right here, is more substantial and greater than what I think we may give it credit for. Like Palpatine's power and his influence within the dark side of the Force. Because not to say that, Yoda's meditation and Qui-Gon's, I don't know if you're going to say, this isn't a Force ghost, but his voice or his essence, through the Force you hear him. But it's just very interesting that we see this, in the same movie or within the same, meditative space, that they're just saying that their ability to use the Force and see the future, whether it be the will of the Force or not, has diminished within they get this. Mm-hmm. And then it's glossed over because of war. I know we're giving Padme a hard time with all these red flags, but the Order has gotten a lot of red flags from Anakin. I mean, after every battle, they have to do a report, just like we have to do like police reports, or if you're in the Navy, you have to have a report.
So or they should definitely know.
Yeah, they should know of his erratic behavior. So they've had all the red flags, and I mean, this is.
But so that's what I want to ask. That's why I asked, like, why do they allow him to stay in the Jedi as a Jedi if this happened? Because that Windu says earlier in the movie, like, he's the chosen one. He's responsible for putting the Force back into balance.
Yeah.
Your apprentice is the only one who can bring the Force back into balance.
As far as that, I don't know what exactly that means. And I know you're going to explain it to me because the movie doesn't explain exactly what that means as far as bringing the Force back into balance and what exactly Anakin has to do to bring the Force back into balance. Because it doesn't seem like they're actually doing anything. Because it seems like he's only here to bring the Force back into balance, but they're not moving towards those steps. He's just training to be a Jedi. Yeah. Unless he has to become a master, become like Yoda, and then he can bring the Force back into balance, which is okay. But yeah.
Well, so I think it goes back to our, discussion we had during the prior review with episode 1 is that it's perceived that Anakin was birthed by the Force as a result of Plagueis' manipulation of up through cloning, like trying to clone Force sensitive beings, and so bringing it into this movie, wherein Yoda says,
"Only the Dark Lord of the Sith knows of our weakness."
They know the presence of the Sith is here. Even if you want to look at, episode 1, that the presence of the Sith and the Jedi creates an imbalance. The two can't live in unison. There's a strong, disruption within the two because the Sith are always trying to undermine the Jedi and their ability to use the Force, thus bringing it out of imbalance. Because the Force will always be an interpretation to what the Sith perceive, and it's also it's also subject to interpretation of what the Jedi perceive as well. Which is why I said, even though we have this one definite outcome, there's so many ways you can get to this definite outcome. Which is why I say it's always, forever evolving. And so I don't think that they're willing per se to cut Anakin from the Order, or if that's even, something that they'll entertain, because there is still a presence of doubt. There's still a presence of, the Sith. They just don't know who the Sith is. They don't know who the Sith already is. So, it's more or less that you cut Anakin from the Order. He goes and joins the Sith earlier than what he is supposed to.
It's pretty much the lesser of two evils. So if they were to cut him, what do you think is going to happen?
I mean, the way the Windu act like early in the movie, he's a Jedi. He can't go be a Sith. What do you mean?
And to say at the same time, the Sith, whether we realize it or not, because we get no substance as far as what the Sith's plan is in these movies until the Revenge of the Sith, the way it's unfolding is, and of course this is an expanded universe, this is exactly as it's unfolded for Dooku. Because Plagueis wanted to poach Dooku from the Jedi Order when he was still a Jedi, because he had interaction with Dooku, and of course, unbeknownst to Dooku or Sifo-Dyas or Qui-Gon at the time, no one knew that Plagueis was a Sith, because we don't get the emergence of the Sith until episode 1 through Darth Maul. So no one knew that he was a Sith, and Plagueis sensed in Dooku the internal conflict between the Jedi Order and how the Republic was functioning. And he thought, it would be in his benefit to possibly plant more, seeds of doubt. Instead, he let Dooku naturally unravel and leave the Order under his own, under his own doing. And then, of course, Plagueis never got to see Dooku, join the Sith. But that's exactly what happened, where Dooku just naturally came to Sidious, and then their union ship formed, and Sidious told him who he was, and you have that formation. The same thing's happening with Anakin. Sidious knows from the moment he meets Anakin, Palpatine, that he meets Anakin, that is going to be his eventual apprentice, even when he's 10 years old.
It's interesting you say that too, because it was actually a scene in this movie, of course, where Anakin is talking to Palpatine, and it seems like they're probably as close as Anakin is with Obi-Wan, but probably even more close, because he's like, I understand. I've been you trusted me.
Telling him to embrace his emotions.
Yeah. So,
which is in line with the dark side. You embrace your emotions. You embrace hate. Hate, leads to anger. Anger leads to, whatever Yoda says. But it essentially allows him, through his anger or fear and anger, to reach his true potential as far as his Force capabilities, which, we just saw with the Tusken Raiders. I mean, it's very interesting. It's very interesting that Yoda can sense Qui-Gon through the Force split. Anakin can. And again, Anakin's nowhere near, Yoda's level here, but you never really get a reconnection of Qui-Gon to Anakin. It's like once Qui-Gon died, his connection to Anakin never was revisited.
Even though it is possible, because we see it later with other Jedi.
Fight!
Round 9.
Anakin, my long-range transmitter has been knocked out. Retransmit this message to Coruscant. I have tracked the bounty hunter Jango Fett to the droid foundries in Geonosis. It's clear that Viceroy Gunray is behind the assassination attempts on Senator Amidala and are forming a... Wait.
Anakin, we will deal with Count Dooku. The most important thing for you is to stay where you are.
Understood, Master.
They'll never get there in time to save him. They have to come halfway across the galaxy.
But you heard Master Windu. He gave me strict orders to stay here.
He gave you strict orders to protect me. And I'm going to help Obi-Wan.
I'm not worried, Artu. It's just I've never flown before.
Commerce skills are preparing for war. There can be no doubt of that.
Count Dooku must have made a treaty with them.
The Senate will never approve the use of clones before the Separatist attack.
The Senate must vote the Chancellor emergency powers.
What senator would have the courage to propose such a radical amendment?
Fake ass nigga.
It's a great pity that our paths have never crossed before, Obi-Wan. Qui-Gon always spoke very highly of you.
Qui-Gon Jinn would never join you.
Don't be so sure, my young Jedi. He knew all about the corruption in the Senate, but he would never have gone along with it if he had learned the truth as I have. What if I told you that the Republic was now under the control of the Dark Lord of the Sith?
No, that's not possible.
Hundreds of senators are now under the influence of a Sith Lord called Darth Sidious.
I don't believe you.
He came to me for help. He told me everything. You must join me, Obi-Wan. And together, we will destroy the Sith.
I will never join you, Dooku.
It may be difficult to secure your release.
Alright, how you guys feel about this?
It connects a lot of the dots from earlier, for sure. I think it wasn't an action-packed scene like the other ones that we've seen earlier, but I feel like this was the connective tissue that we needed to make fuller sense of what was going on. From your perspective, did that help?
Yeah, it definitely helped. Is he trying to get him to join with the Sith though, or is he? What is he trying to do with that?
He's not saying. So Dooku never admits to being a Sith here.
Yeah,
if you notice.
Yeah.
So he's
like, just join me. We can stop the Sith.
Yeah. So he pretty much wants him to be a pawn in his plan, but he's not saying that. Oh, hey, I'm a Sith. You know.
Yeah.
That's what's going on.
Okay. Too bad he doesn't believe him.
I just thought it was funny how the whole time they were having a conversation, at certain points Obi-Wan's back was turned.
Yeah,
he was awkwardly spinning around. Why were you weak earlier? You don't remember?
I do not. It was just funny though seeing how much Padme has taken from Anakin. Like,
oh
they
yeah.
off each other.
Yeah.
You're starting to see a lot of her rebelliousness and why, like, she is a prominent voice in the Senate. Which reason why I was laughing is because your favorite character from episode 1 is about to have his key moment. That's why I was laughing.
Yeah, with the fucking. That's the other thing I wanted to go over. It seems like Palpatine's plan relies on Jar Jar, the dumbest person alive, Jar Jar being appointed, and then him making it.
You think about that too. Well, that part was lucky, but so earlier when Anakin was talking to Padme about using the Force on other people, he said it doesn't work on smart people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So this is perfect. If in fact he is using on
if he
Jar
is,
Jar.
if there's a scene where he's like, aha,
But I guess worst case scenario, it was definitely suggested because they were in the reasons. Oh, if only there was if only Padme could appoint the use of the clone army, and then the camera pans over to Jar Jar, just sitting here with his eyes doing like this.
I don't know about that one because I thought Qui-Gon tried to control.
Oh, the Gungan leader.
Yeah, he tried to control them, and he couldn't do it. So I don't.
So he's just feeble-minded. You can't use the Force on him, but
you can easily manipulate him.
Yeah. You don't have to be a Jedi to manipulate him.
I guess not. Okay. Yeah, scene wasn't bad. I didn't have any problem with the scene. I do like how it explained more about the insight of what's going on with the Chancellor and everything like that.
I do like how Tyrannus or Dooku is very ambiguous here. He gives you a whole loaf of bread, but he says, "Here's the knife. You got to cut that." Yeah.
It's interesting when he said Qui-Gon would have never gone with the Senate if he knew about the corruption. Do you guys think that's true?
Do I think he would have defected?
Yeah,
because
Qui-Gon would have basically did the same thing Tyrannus would have did if he knew about it.
I can't say
because he hints at it, but because he is rebellious, right? Qui-Gon is like he does go against the
two different
he goes so.
Yeah.
It's a two-sided question because is it possible that Qui-Gon could leave the Order? Absolutely, but he wouldn't be a fallen Jedi like Dooku. I mean, he'd be a fallen Jedi, but he wouldn't have been easy to manipulate because Qui-Gon was a Jedi that always followed the will of the Force. Mm-hmm. He was one of the few that possessed the ability to like meditate in combat. Like he was always, as we saw in episode 1, encouraging. He did meditate in the fight with Darth Maul, but he was always encouraging Obi-Wan to stay present. And so I think he was probably the purest form of a Jedi, whereas we saw that Yoda, Mace, like they were overly reliant on the Force, but they're also overly reliant on the Force while trying to protect the Republic. Whereas Qui-Gon didn't care about protecting the Republic. He felt like it was his due diligence to serve the will of the Force, and if the will of the Force was to protect the Republic, then that's how you get to that destination. Mm-hmm. Whereas the Council always tried to blend the two.
Difference in priorities, actually. Yeah. So I think he may would have left the Order, but he, like Des said, he wouldn't have joined the Senate.
Yeah, gotcha. He's too in touch with.
Or he could try to reform them internally by joining the council and gaining influence.
Yeah, but he turned that down.
Yeah.
I think him joining it would have. I don't know. I don't want to
influence them.
I think it would have caused more internal turmoil. Because once you get appointed to the council, I mean, you gotta remember, like, you're overseeing the training of younglings and political issues. So you're part of diplomacy. You're part of negotiations. I mean, granted, we saw he was part of the negotiations in episode 1, but like you have a more prominent role. Like you're in cahoot with the with the higher ups of the Republic, like the chancellors, vice chancellors, and things of that nature. So he has a lot more influence.
Gotcha. Fight! Round 10.
Don't move, Jedi. Take him away.
Don't be afraid.
I'm not afraid to die. I've been dying a little bit each day since you came back into my life. I love you.
Really?
You love me?
Yeah, I'm surprised you do.
I thought that we had decided not to fall in love.
I think our lives are about to be destroyed anyway. Before we die, I want you to know.
And no one sees
it. Yeah, like it.
I was beginning to wonder if you'd got my message. We decided to come and rescue you. Good job.
Good job.
how it's supposed to be.
Patience, Viceroy, patience, you will die.
I was just thinking that.
You're impossibly outnumbered.
I don't think so.
So this is another instance of, like I said, the Darth Maul where they have such an epic character, and they don't live past one movie or one canonical movie, and I'm just awestruck.
I mean, they probably, I don't know. I think they put it in there for the origin story of Boba Fett. I think
Sure.
Yeah. I think. But I do like this scene with all the Jedi fighting together. I think it's really dope. One thing, I feel this scene probably shouldn't really be here because what the hell is this Coliseum thing where they tie him up and they let the monsters kill him?
Geonosian?
But they're Jedi, and I'm guessing they're trying to kill Padme. So I don't understand why they wait so long to actually do that, especially if they want to kill Padme. So and plus Count Dooku was a Jedi, so she should know how powerful a Jedi actually is.
You're saying why do they waste time to make the spectacle as opposed to just getting it over with?
Yeah, why you should have just killed them? You didn't have to put them in an arena and do it like that. That's what I'm talking about. Like,
no, I don't have an answer to.
Yeah, you should have, like, Count Dooku was a Jedi, so he should know how powerful a Jedi is. He should know that they could survive something like this even without a lightsaber.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And then you have a bounty hunter, Jango Fett too. Of course, he died from winter, but you have a bounty hunter too. So why the hell do you wait until all the Jedi get there, which is basically fucking up your plan if you really think about it. So that's really my only problem with this scene. But aside from that, I do like all the Jedi actually fighting at the same time. I think it looks dope.
No, I don't mind the scene. I'm cool with the Geonosian execution style setup that they have in the Coliseum. I think it still has the go-to, the Sith's plan. That's why they do it that way, because I think there still needs to be a first battle that kicks off the Clone Wars. I'm pretty sure they were piecing together that Obi-Wan found Jango. Therefore, Obi-Wan reported to the council that there is this clone army, which we didn't get to see, but essentially we see that Chancellor Palpatine is, granted emergency power, so he authorizes the use of the army. And so there needs to be, I guess, some form of a dramatic, because again, they're saying that, Dooku and Trade Federation, what's his name? New Gunray, like they're in partnership. And they're in partnership because they were betrayed by a Sith Lord, not knowing that Tyrannus is playing the orchestrator of the Sith's grand plan. So I think they are already aware of the need for a battle, and this is probably according to their plan to where the battle happens, to where they know that the Jedi are going to come and try and save Obi-Wan and Anakin. Because I don't think Palpatine ever wants. I think it's important for Padme to survive for Palpatine's plan, because he needs Anakin to further that attachment to Padme, to thus make her situation in the next movie that much more connected to him. So I wouldn't doubt that it's all part of plan that we aren't seeing.
I would actually be inclined to agree with you because of Dooku.
Yeah.
And his
very manipulative.
His words in the scene, because there were two instances when Newt wanted to shoot her or something, so he wanted to get her done right then, but he said no, wait, and then Django was gonna get ready to go down there, and he said no, wait. So it's almost as he knew something else was coming.
Yeah. But speaking of the characters, how do you guys feel about the actual characters in the movie? I know you mentioned Jango Fett about him not surviving as long as you wanted to be. Do you feel that's a negative with this movie?
No. The reason I said it was with Darth Maul was disappointing because I had a personal character attachment to him. Yeah, man, I just liked him as a character. But I understand with any kind of movie, you can't. Somebody has to die. Like if you were to tell this story to get your point across and show the severity of it, like not everybody's gonna live to see the end of the movie. So I understand it. Like, of course, I would like to maybe know some more of his backstory, which they do delve into some of that, and when they talk about it in Mandalorian, the Book of Boba, they kind of reference some of that, and they do give you more information on it. But I'm not particularly upset by it. You know, it just has its place.
How do you feel about Boba Fett as a character? Both of you?
Boba?
Yeah.
I hate that little bastard.
Why?
He's. Did you hear him laugh earlier?
Yeah.
Oh my god, I hate that laugh.
do you hate his character, or you just hate how he acts?
I hate his. I would say both.
Interesting.
I mean, I understand why he's raised by Jango, and so he even though they're bounty hunters, he feels like they're doing the right thing. And this evil Jedi is trying to. I get that. But just his character is very annoying because you don't really see him get his comeuppance in this movie.
You really hate Boba Fett.
I do.
How do you feel about that?
At least this version of Boba.
Oh, okay.
I'm impartial to this version. I think that it's cool to see him. We don't get much of his character. I hate Boba Fett in the Clone Wars animated series. I feel like he's very entitled in that sense, but of course he's just trying to kill Mace Windu in the series. But I mean, this one I don't really. I'm impartial to it because I understand that Jango was bringing. I mean, Boba is an exact replica of Jango, so Jango is bringing him up in the way that maybe he wishes he would have been brought up, or he is bringing him up to be, essentially a successor. So, I don't have any impartiality, or I don't have any disdain towards his character. I'm pretty impartial with it. Like, I mean, if you hate the acting, I understand it, but I don't care too much.
He's a child. He doesn't play that much of a significant role, so I don't have a problem with acting.
Speaking of acting, though, when it comes to the acting, it's not really about Boba Fett. It's actually about Hayden Christensen. His acting, his Hayden Christensen as Anakin.
Oh,
am I saying his name?
I don't know. See, I'm bad with acting.
Yo, is that their actual
most
names?
actors' names? Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's really his acting, and I think I'm not saying it's him. I think it's more George Lucas and his dialogue and how he wanted him to actually say it. Like, say it like, oh yeah, that's good, but say it like you're a little bit more dead inside. All right, got it, perfect, do it. Like, it just seems like most of his lines as he's delivering, it's like it's not that impactful.
This kind of had that Hot Topic Gothic kid thing going on. when he's talking about the beach, yeah, it gets everywhere. I hate myself. Like, that's the kind of vibe I got from it.
Yeah, that's the only thing. But I'm not saying he does bad. I think he tries, but I just think George Lucas just puts him onto a path of just like, okay, like. But other than that, I do like all the other characters in the movie. Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan is great. I do like Christopher Lee as Count Dooku. He's great too. Samuel Jackson is always a winner too.
Samuel Jackson was an interesting cast for this movie.
Why is that?
Just to have him, it's so different from what he had played prior to being in Star Wars.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Yeah. It's interesting. How did he even get in this movie? It seems like he's in every fucking movie.
I don't know, man.
Well, and one thing I wanted to ask, like, is there a reason he has a purple lightsaber?
That's the one he wanted.
Oh, it's just one he wanted.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I mean, of course, in the lore, there's reasons behind purple, but in the in the scenes, like behind the scenes, he just says he tells George he wants a purple lightsaber.
Oh, like George
Yeah.
stuff. Oh, I think you meant like he told the
Oh,
Jedi Council
no,
like
your question was about the act, like in the continuity of the film.
I thought either or.
No,
I didn't
I
know
mean,
if it was like
there's
a
like
reason.
lore behind it, like your lightsaber crystals, like the kyber crystals are essentially going to be whatever color, I guess, based on your connection to the Force. Like you'll get that color, but his is specifically purple because he told George he wanted a purple one.
Yeah, but that's really my only actual thing about the actors and acting, was just about the acting with Hayden Christensen. That was the only thing. And I think other than that, I think it's kind of on par with the last movie, The Phantom Menace, to be honest with you. But yeah.
You don't play